Today on Greatly Amusing, the Halloween franchise special.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gravely Amusing, the only podcast that knows how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. I'm your 90% deaf host, Bryan Peters, and here with me are the man with three first names, Jonathan Tyler Patrick, and the man responsible for China only allowed to have one child, James Tiberius Cole. Welcome, boys.
Did you know that
to the 45th anniversary of the Halloween franchise, part 2?
James made me believe in reincarnation because it's like Genghis Khan is back. Just
spreading the seed.
Yep,
spread the seed.
It's called
China
James
wants
the farmer.
Shut down the whole country. In part 1, we covered the original sequel timeline and we talked on the Rob Zombie films. Tonight, the real action begins, the real controversy. Tonight, we discussed the H2O timeline and the H40 timeline. It touched a little bit upon Halloween 3 because that's kind of its own thing. Then we'll discuss how we rank these films, and then we'll discuss our hope for the future now that Miramax has taken over TV rights and what we think about that. If you listeners don't know, I'm actually roughly 80% deaf, and I use hearing aids to get by. So my left hearing aid died just before this podcast started. So, but the show must go on sometimes. So I apologize for any awkward moments or these guys from the Crypt Art Report yelling at me to check my battery like Alma and Sister Act. But we'll see how it goes. So, boys, the last time we left Michael, we were talking Rob Zombie, but Michael kind of left also with the Cult of Thorn and Raping His Niece and, good family films. and they introduced the Cult of Thorn in Halloween 6, and that was about 1995. It was 3 years later. It was 1998 now. It's the 20th anniversary of Halloween. Let's get dangerous, boys. Let's talk H2O.
Yeah. You say it's all about family. Is Michael going to rip that mask off? Is going to be Dom underneath?
Yes.
That was a joke that I was saving.
No,
but
he's the lost Toretto.
He's the lost Toretto.
Michael wasn't even a Myers. He was actually a Toretto. He's actually Dom's uncle.
Right.
That's actually the retcon they were trying in 2018.
Okay, I want to say this. Good. Halloween H2O was the first Halloween movie I saw. I saw
this straight way through.
I saw it before I saw the original. I was at my cousin's house and they had rented it, and we sat there and we watched it. And so H2O was the first film I saw, and it kind of worked. It worked for me. I do want to point out a couple of things I find interesting about H2O is the fact that there is an extended script that Kevin Williamson had worked on that helped tie in all of the events as if they had happened, where this film actually did carry on from the previous films. It was part of a continuing timeline. But then they cut that scenes and kind of made it this new timeline that we're talking about, where it's 1, 2, H2O, and Resurrections.
Yeah, he was trying to tie it all together. Kevin Williamson, if you listeners do not know, is one of the greatest writers of our time. He is the man that wrote Scream, pretty much created Scream with Wes. He wrote this movie,
Dawson's Creek.
What's that?
Let's not forget Dawson's Creek.
I watched the crap out of that when I was a kid, when I was a teenager.
I can't even remember the character. I was going to make a Dawson's Creek joke, but then I couldn't remember what the freaking characters' names were.
Well, we got a character, or we got a person from Dawson's Creek, Michelle Williams, in H2O.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do.
Tying
Yes, we
it
do.
back.
Oh yeah, man.
So H2O is not it's one of the early Halloweens I saw. So like I'd seen like the original and probably two. Really only maybe caught bits of the other ones until I had seen H2O. So it was really 1, 2, and H2O for me. It was kind of like that's how it was. I knew going into it that Michael was her brother, you know? So that's my original timeline basically of watching Halloween was Halloween, Halloween 2, and H2O.
I mean,
Yeah, like it really does shape a great trilogy. Like it really does. Like so in this timeline, listeners, we are Halloween 1, of course, is a blueprint. It is the focal point, what's the word? The fulcrum.
The launch pad.
The launch pad, the start of the sacred timeline, if you will. But then Halloween 2 matters in this because it establishes Laurie as his sister, that Laurie got away, and basically that Dr. Loomis does H2O. Yeah, H2O does establish that Loomis did survive the fire, right? And then because the nurse was taking care of him. Am I correct in that?
I think so. I think like he died later.
Okay.
Because the nurse makes an offhand comment because she has all of his records.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, Donald Pleasance was dead by this time, but
yeah.
I believe they do. I believe they do say that he survived the fire and lived on for a while after that, but not like, certainly not like Michael's doctor or anything.
Yeah, totally. So this takes place 20 years after the fire, or after the first night of Halloween, and so now this is 1998, 20 years after 1978, where it really started. But kind of timeline wise, if Halloween 2 kind of happened in 1981, you just have to kind of ignore that fact.
No, Halloween 2 is the same night.
I know you. Well, I'm saying you have to like ignore the fact that came out in 81.
Oh, I got you.
But, my apologies, guys. Where are my notes here? There we go. Okay.
I was just going to point out, like what James was saying, this movie came out like we were all about 12, 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So we're right at that cusp of teenage years, when you really start getting more interested in horror. So it does, work that we were exposed to this one maybe before the first one because it was the new hip thing.
Yeah, I think most people our age is probably, this is more one of their more favorite one, and somebody who's a little bit older might not have as much of an appreciation for it because they have the other movies first.
I think you're totally right. I think you're spot on with that. Like, because this is, right when we were about to become teenagers, like this movie came in theaters. Maybe you did see in theaters. I don't think I did see in theaters. I mean, I might have.
I'm pretty sure that I saw this at. I'm positive I saw this at home.
It was at home. It was a rent. Like I said, I watched it with my cousin.
I'm pretty sure it was a rental. Yeah,
probably. But I think this movie has one of the best Halloween openings. That we get the nurse going into her house. It's ransacked. It's been broken into. The nurse from the original Halloween 1 and 2. I forget her name, but then she asked Joseph Gordon-Levitt to go into her house with a hockey stick to see what was going on. And basically Michael kills that kid. Michael kills another kid. The cops show up and Michael drives away in a nice muscle car. and we find out from the
James in his face.
Hits him right in the face with the ice skate, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an awesome kill. Awesome kill. But we find that Michael has kind of been looking for her these past 20 years. She faked her death. She's got a new identity, and Michael's just been hunting her kind of from the shadows, which I think is a great story concept. That like you're not going to get away from me. I will find you. And he took the file from Lori that the nurse had, that Loomis had, and we get this awesome opening credit scene after the police shut the door of all these newspaper clippings of Halloween 1 and 2, this homage, if you will. And we get the quotes from Loomis saying, he had the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. It's just such an awesome opening. I absolutely love it. So what do you like? I have some things I definitely want to get into, but James, like, what do you think about this movie? Like, do you like this timeline better? Like, well, that's a question I kind of was saving, but I guess we'll get into it. But,
I mean, better. It's really short. You get the timeline. You get 1, which is a great movie. 2, which is a pretty darn good movie. This movie, which I think is a really good movie. This is up there with is up there in my rankings with some of my favorites from this franchise. And honestly, the Resurrection, I do not hate. I don't love it, but I don't think it's horrible either. Some people are like, it's blasphemous.
Well, we'll talk about that next. We'll talk about that.
We will. I'm just saying, but as a timeline,
Sure.
So I
guess let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
If you look at Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and this, does that make a great trilogy? Or
yes.
you feel like you needed more?
Yes, because at the end, we get the ending where Lori takes him and chops his head off. And everybody was like, oh my God, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's over. But it's kind of the thing that they do all the time is say they always die, but they always come back.
I'll wait and comment.
It was intense. It was emotional. You know what I mean? Like, she felt something in that moment for what happened. I do like this, actually. It's probably my favorite of the Halloween trilogy. I mean, for an answer, yeah. I mean, it is my favorite trilogy in the Halloween
Halloween
all
1,
the Halloween
2, and
timelines.
Yeah. Is there anything about this movie that you thought sucked? Or you would have done better?
You know what? There's some really awesome things about this movie. For the most part, I like most of it. Like, it's got good music in it, actually, because we've got the introduction of Josh Hartnett. So we get this group of teens. So we get some, and this was the 90s, so we get some needle drops, so we had some music in there. The group of teens, I mean, they all played their parts. Most of those death scenes were pretty good. I mean, and then you got LL Cool J trying to be a romance writer. I mean, come on, like
it was like, that was great humor added to the movie. Like, sometimes humor can go like just too much, but that was just a good bit of humor to split up some of the suspense and horror.
Yeah, some
his
nice
woman
levity.
yelling at him,
right? Some great kills, and I mean, Michael coming down from the rafters, coming down off that pipe, like it's one of the most iconic shots of the franchise.
I definitely put that in my notes, that scene where he's just coming down and like hanging
One
by
hand.
one arm.
One hand.
Yeah, I love that scene. I love that. Yeah, so you rank it pretty high?
Yeah, it's fairly high in my rankings, yeah.
Nice. Tyler.
What's up?
I know you have so much to say about this one because you and I really love this one.
I do love this. And I think this one is more in line with the original. And that goes back to what I find funny, okay, is this one was directed by Tim Miner. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Who
Probably
directed
Minor.
who directed
Steve Miner. Yeah.
Who directed Friday the 13th, Part 2 and Part 3.
Yeah, Steve Miner. Mm-hmm.
So I
Not
find
a
it interesting.
character at all.
I find it interesting that this film has more, I think, in its pacing and its style with the original Halloween, less kills, not as much of a gore film, coming from a guy who had done Friday the 13th. But I do think this one, I do like this one. Because like I said, I think it does work really good as a good trilogy. If you look at it. So the only thing I can say is that I didn't like about it is I hate that they tweaked Kevin Williamson's script, because I have a pitch that I'd like to throw out to you guys.
Let's hear it, boy. Let's hear it. Well, I probably won't hear it, but James will hear it.
I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Because how they wrote this film to tie it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's hints at it in this one about her faking her death and everything.
Yep.
Give it to me.
Come on.
My pitch was at the end of this film, when it's John and Lori at home, you hear a ring at the doorbell. Lori goes to get the pizza they ordered. She opens the door.
It's just in good 11.
And it's Jamie. And she stabs her. And Lori falls down dead. And Jamie looks at John and puts on Michael's mask. And that's where it ends. And the idea now is you have the new brother and sister, where Jamie is now basically the shape of evil. And now John has to figure out what his family's true legacy was and try to stop his sister. And that would have been the next Halloween film. So you really would have ended the Michael and Lori story. She killed him. And you would have picked up the threads that you left from 4 and 5, ignoring 6. That's the big one. We just have to ignore 6. Okay. If you want to ignore 5, that's 5 too. That's fine too.
Let's ignore that too.
You know what I'm saying?
Get it out of here.
But I'm just saying, like, my idea was, since we're jumping and doing this thing where we kind of, with the Halloween films, ditch some and count some, this would be the sequel to 4 or 5. And you know what I'm saying? And it would continue what we did, because we all know that Danielle Harris still looked extremely young. And her and Josh Hartnett in real life are only a year apart. Like, one was born in 1977. One was born. I looked them up yesterday. They're only born a year apart. So it works. You do the math. It still works for both of them to have been born
young in the 2000s and 2000.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so
this was in 98.
So that's my pitch, is you have them, you go that way, and that's how it goes. It has like Solomon has really grabbed onto the end in the first Goosebumps movie, where Jack Black, as R.L. Stine says, every story can be broken into 3 parts: the beginning, the middle, and the twist. And that's been like Solomon's catchphrase now every time we watch something. So with that in mind, could you imagine, like, as a Halloween fan, and you get that ending as your twist? That was my pitch. I think
I would have been like, oh boy.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a twist, that's a twist that rivals, like, at the end. It's not just a jump scare that can be a dream, or that could have happened or couldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a twist ending that wants you coming back for the next one. Kind of like 4 ended wanting you coming back for 5. Like, and it would almost make sense if you ignored 5 and 6 and went off of 4 with that ending, because then she comes back like she's been in the asylum for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And she escapes and does that. You know what I mean?
Lori's fake.
You can definitely see that she would have the rage and want revenge if her mother's still alive.
John took her life.
Mm-hmm.
Lori's faking her death was the car crash that supposedly killed her. Right. That's what I'm saying. And it's something that Lori's, and then you have a whole movie where John has to go back to Haddonfield. That's his first time there. he goes with the weight of who he is, his family line. He has to start figuring out stuff. You know, he can't find his sister he's been searching for, but he knows if he's in Haddonfield on Halloween, she's guaranteed to appear. So like, yeah, that's it, man. That's my
I think that would have been freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like it really would have. It would have been something special. It really would have. I'm with you, man. So some notes I have here to kind of back up what you're saying.
like a cold one.
So Lori says that John's dad was a meth head that left Lori. So I found that kind of interesting that like is Jamie's dad like so if we make Jamie canon again, is Jamie's dad the EMT guy?
Yeah.
And then something happened there. Maybe Lori like drank a little too much. She left. She got into drugs. She faked her death. She got depressed. Found a meth head, or she's lying. I'm gonna go with she's.
I
lying.
mean, with the storyline that they continue in this one, and even in H4O with her being an alcoholic and everything, like you can see if she would have turned to substance abuse to cope with her trauma for a while.
Makes perfect sense.
I'm okay with I'm okay with her like having substance abuse, and then that's why she fakes her death to get rid. And she thought Jamie's father would take care of her, and then he was already out of the picture and didn't know or something, or he abandoned her too. I don't know.
Yeah,
like he didn't show up to get her like Lori thought he was going to. So it makes Jamie even more full of that rage.
It's interesting. Like this movie puts John as being 17. That means that you would have been born in 81. So that'd make him the same age as Jamie, or 1 year older than Jamie, just like you said. The one note I put in here, the mother that takes her child to this rest stop. Like, I'm not a parent, I'm not, but I probably wouldn't take my child. I would take my child probably to a more public place, like a more safer place than this thing. In 98, we really had no cell phones. So like it makes it seem more scary. And I like how they called back to the scene a little bit in at H40, because those podcast people, they would have cell phones with them, but Michael still kicked their ass and still made it terrifying. So I kind of like that little bit of callback. In my notes as well, there's a scene where Lori is teaching and she starts talking about Frankenstein, and you know how I love Frankenstein, and she starts relating the story. It's almost like relating the story of Halloween to Frankenstein. And I have it in an audio clip in my notes, and I can't listen to it right now because I don't have an Apple computer, but I thought it was very interesting what was said, but I can't remember all that was said. I also wrote that the number 17, for some reason, is significant in this series, this franchise. So Judith was 17 when she was murdered by Michael. Lori was 17 when she met Michael in Halloween 78. John is 17 in Halloween H2O. Allison Strode and H40, she's 17 as well. So when everybody like meets Michael, they have to be 17 years old. I thought that was interesting. I also want to talk about this freaking CGI mask. I'll try to send you guys a picture of this mofo.
Oh, I know it. I know. But bring it on.
Oh yeah.
You familiar with how this looks like?
Yeah.
James?
Yeah. I mean, go ahead and send it, but yeah.
I think this has to be it. I think so. But that has to be it because it looks so freaking atrocious. And I don't know what we're looking at. We're looking at like PS1 graphic type thing. It's horrible.
In 98, was PS1 even out? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. Wait, where did it come out?
No, yeah, PS2 was out.
PS2 came out in like 2001, whatever. There's a lot of different masks in this movie, a whole bunch of different masks. A lot of them really focus on seeing the eyes, which I do not like seeing Michael's eyes, but it is what it is. But I really like the scene where Michael's chasing John and his girl. I like that John punches him
Yes.
because no one's ever freaking done that. And I think I remember that Tyler and I talked about that. Like, this is the first time that someone stands up to Michael, just punched him in the freaking mouth. It was freaking awesome.
He doesn't have the history or the fear, like, and it just shows, like, I think it's a little bit more
90s.
updated. Yeah, 90s. Let's just say 90s, like, teen, like, like, oh, screw this. Bam. Like,
I'm John Strode, bitch.
right.
I also like one of the most iconic.
I've never brushed my hair a day in my life.
Never in the day, like me today. Now I was wearing a hat today, but I also, one of the most iconic Halloween shots that's always in my head is where Michael gets to that door with the round window, and he's looking at Laurie, and Laurie looks up and sees him for the first time in 20 years. Like, holy shit, he's back. Like, okay, oh my god, he found me. Like, I love that scene.
Yeah. And Jamie Lee just so great in that scene. Like, just the fear, the anger, and I think that's why they show Michael's eyes so much. They want them to look into each other's eyes. So at the end, when she's looking into his eyes and then she chops his head off, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was there. I think it was that way for a reason, so it wasn't just dark.
I think you're right. I think you're totally right.
So because John technically would be like right there at the cusp of being a Gen Xer, into a millennial. So he's got that, like, man, attitude.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm the parent with a kid at the thing. I just want to say this. I'm just pissing in the grass. I pulled up that scene just to kind of look at it. Just taking my kid. They're peeing on the wall. They're peeing in the back. I don't care. Like, if it's this remote, they're just peeing outside.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you this question, and I think this is a pretty damn good question. So in the last 20 minutes of this movie, we get Laurie going to her son and his girlfriend, and kind of a callback to that scene from Halloween 1 where she's like, I want you to go to Mackenzie's house, and I want you to, call 911, go to Mackenzie's house, stay safe. She gets them out of there. She busts the gate. She locks herself in with Michael. My question to you boys is, the last 20 minutes of H2O the best Halloween moments there is? Better than the showdown in Halloween 1? That last 20 minutes of H2O, is it the best? James,
you mean out of all? You mean out of all of them, like all the way to ends, or okay? Because
this is Laurie ready to freaking go.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. She gets to fight back, because in the first one, she's fighting back, defending herself and everything, but she's on the run. She's young. She's 17. She's scared. She's still a little, she's just trying to hide most of the time. So, like, when it comes down to this one, I mean, besides being totally ready and having a murder house for him, like, up to this point, it is.
I would say it is, because I feel like the next one, in H40, we're not there yet, but like, it's almost one step too far of paranoia. This one, at least, like, it's her fighting back, not having prep time, never knowing if he's going to show up.
Well, in within the last 20 years, she's watched Doomsday Preppers, so like she's got to escalate.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best last 20 minutes of the Halloween of any Halloween movie. I really do, because it's the drama's there. Like, this is the first final battle between Laurie and Michael. Like,
The first final battle. That's
The
yeah.
what?
It's just funny. The first final.
I know,
battle.
right?
Well, because originally it was already final because she was dead. They
Yep.
wrote her out.
Yep. In this movie, he's not listed as Michael Myers. He's not listed as the Shape. He's just listed as Michael, played by Chris Durant. It's just
Yeah,
Michael.
weird.
That's all it is. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I personally rate that pretty high. Anybody have anything about H2O they want to last minute things they want to say?
Oh no, I'm good. We can go on to Resurrection.
Let's do it. Because I think I think Resurrection.
H2O
we have a
is
lot of
short,
opinions
though.
here.
That's
It
one-
is.
It's only technically because I got an hour and 20 minutes and 42 seconds before credits start.
For Resurrection.
No, for H2O.
Is it one of the shortest ones?
Yeah.
86 minutes, yeah.
Because they didn't waste. They everything had purpose. They didn't waste any freaking time in this movie. I mean, I
Well,
don't really
Resurrection
think
was 94 minutes comparatively.
Yeah.
I will say this as we get into Resurrection. Do you think the way they end H2O works without Resurrection, but it also is a clever way of keeping Michael alive without being like, he climbed through a tunnel, he survived this?
Well, Jamie Lee said when she did H2O that she wouldn't do it if it looked like Michael was coming back.
So that's my thing is it looks like he's not coming back,
Right.
but they set it up. I mean, they set it up believable that he could come back. Like, and I was watching, like I skipped to the end to watch the final part. Like, yeah, it's set up like it works, you know. It's a cheap cop out, but it works if that's what you got to do, you know.
Yeah.
I hate the beginning of Resurrection.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why that's yeah, I don't want to say too much until it's my turn.
What's that?
I don't want to say too much until it's my turn.
Oh, you're fine, buddy.
So
James, what did you like about this? What didn't you like?
Okay.
This is a very
I
controversial.
think most everybody agrees that they don't like the opening of Resurrection. You know,
there is
like,
something I do like.
She doesn't have to die to make it go forward.
She was probably pissed and just wanted her character to be done with.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yep.
So, well, what do you say that you liked about it? Are you talking about the movie or are you talking about the beginning?
So in the beginning of
curious.
Resurrection, the only thing I like. So what happens, listeners, is basically Laurie's in the nut house. Michael didn't die. Michael swapped bodies with a paramedic, and
The person she chopped head off was an innocent paramedic.
Michael gets away. Laurie's in the nut house. She's been waiting for Michael to show up. Michael shows up. Long story short, Michael kills Laurie. He stabs her, and then she falls off the top of the roof of the nut house. And then the part that I like is in that nut house, there is a patient, I think his name is Harold, that is kind of obsessed with serial killers and likes Michael. And Michael goes to his cell and hands him his knife and then walks away. So, like, here you go, Harold. Go kill people. Like, but if you were to end H2O that way and Michael just walks off in the sunset, it still would have sucked as an ending, but it still would have worked as an ending. Like, it still would have kind of worked. It's not as good as what they originally had for H2O with him reaching out and like, Laurie, help me, I'm your brother. But I liked him handing his knife to this dude. It's one of the only things I like. But it's just killing Laurie right away just sets the tone that this movie is not going to be like any other Halloween you've seen before, and we're going to do something that you're probably not going to like.
Yeah.
But James,
I mean, it's got to end either way. You know, it's got to end either she dies or Michael dies.
Point of order here.
good, buddy.
Okay, so Resurrection We have Rick Rosenthal back, who directed Halloween 2. Okay. But what I'm surprised by, both him and Brad Minner both directed episodes of Smallville, with Rosenthal directing multiple episodes. And the one that surprised me is he directed Lexmas. One of my favorite episodes of Smallville. He directed Lexmas.
Oh,
Rosenthal
nice.
directed a total of 7 Smallville episodes. That just caught me off guard. Like, wow, cool. So I was like,
And I know he did it. I know he did.
It all
at
goes
least a
back to
couple of good
Superman.
ones.
It all goes back to Superman, bro.
You kids.
So it's not like it's the worst thing, to kill Jamie and then just move on. Because how many stories can you have of he comes after a family member, he dies, and then he doesn't, and he comes after them again? How long can he persist, honestly? And that's kind of the question we get when we go into 4-0 as well. But the fact that if you go that route the way this one does, what does Michael do after that? Michael goes home. So
He's got nothing else to do.
Yeah, so he goes home. And that's the thing that I like about this is it's home. He's home. It's just he's at his house and people come to his house. And that's why he's killing everybody. So it's kind of just a Michael free for all in this movie.
I honestly, God, I don't hate this movie as much as some other people do.
Like it's probably a little freeing in the realm of Michael Myers, always chasing family.
Say that again.
Is always chasing family, but how much he killed them all. He has no family.
Yeah, I mean his family sucked anyway. but
also,
Tyler, go ahead, man.
How many? Okay, so we established 98 was H2O.
Yep.
This is what 4 years later, 2002.
This is in 2002.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So here we are, new decade. We're in the early 2000s. Okay. And I feel like in a way, the idea of this film was just slightly ahead of its time, because they tried to be too hip and too of the now, with like the cameras and the reality TV. I mean, this kind of plot feels more of like what it would be now, where everyone has kind of like how I said that Scream 4 was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But if you were to do Scream 4 kind of now, it makes more sense than when they did it, with the way people do live stream more everything. But this one I watched with my same set of cousins, ironically, because
church cousins.
And then the last time I watched this one, I think it was the only one that was streaming anywhere at the time, and I was like, "What? But okay." The only thing I can ever that sticks out in my mind from this is the "flick or treat, motherfucker," like Busta Rhymes fighting Michael. Like this is
drop kicks him in the chest, dude.
Well, if you're looking at still going, think about it. If we're still just going linearly, yes, 6 jumped the shark. And if we're continuing, if you're just watching these in order, not really thinking timelines or anything like that, this is where it's now the comedy. This is where it's now like, this is a joke and I can't take it serious.
Yeah.
And
that's very fair.
I've watched this one time. I don't remember a lot of it. I would watch this again. Like if we were hanging out, the three of us right now, or if we were doing a live watch right now, I'd watch it again because it'd be fun.
Or watch it. Yeah,
exactly.
It'd be great to do that. Get some drinks and just get shit faced and watch Resurrection.
It's one that I would watch like that. Like we talked about, like ones we would, or like 6. I'd be like, oh, no, this one I would, because it's so bad. Hanging out with my friends and watching it, sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I don't deny that it's not bad. It's not the greatest, but
this one,
it's a fun one to watch.
If they needed to kill Jamie Lee Curtis and they needed a sequel, let's just take my idea and we start this movie on October 30th, where John's graduated high school, Or, it's the year he's come home for Halloween weekend from college. He's with his mom, and Jamie showed up. If we got to make a sequel, let's get rid of. If we had to kill Jamie Lee Curtis off, like, we'll do it my way, because this. Where did they plan to go after this? Like, if you're trying to revitalize a franchise and you got one sequel in mind, you're not really doing a good job.
Yeah, this isn't a revitalized sequel. This is just a cash grab sequel.
Amen,
Let's
brother.
get another Michael Myers movie out there. Let's maybe up the body count. Let's, make it a little funnier, a little less serious. Especially if the plan ended up being to kill Jamie Lee Curtis's character off. It's like, well,
I think the concept of doing a reality show in Michael Myers' house, I think it's an interesting concept. It really is. But like another movie we're going to talk about in a bit, there's two different things in this movie. Like the final encounter with Laurie, just like it ends, but except, reversed. Like, it felt like the beginning should have been part of another movie. And then this thing in the house is the whole next chapter. And the Myers house looks great in this movie. I'll give it that.
It's shot well in the house.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really interesting, and I wish they would have dwelled into more, is this tunnel system that's under the Myers house. Like, where all does it go? Is this how Michael travels things fast? Is this how Michael has been surviving? He just uses this tunnel system. They don't really delve into it. They show some weird things in cages, and Michael was probably surviving on rats. It's just it's interesting. But when you add these things, and then you add in, not really Busta Rhymes, more like whoop a ass, to Michael, and he kick him in the chest, and then electrocutes him, and
I was watching that Def Jam fighting game. Remember
absolutely, or Shaq Fu or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just it's where I'm with Tyler on this. This is where you can't really take it serious.
Yeah,
when you add in that type of comedy.
It's funny though. Is a reality show the way to go, or should they have been like paranormal investigators, like Ghost Facers, and they go in there and they're trying
things in this world that we'll never understand.
Yeah, communicate with Judith Myers and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I should
which would have been more of an interesting premise.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't think it's the worst Halloween movie. I just feel like there's things that they should have separated into two different movies.
Yeah,
just my
it's
opinion.
The only movie that really releases Michael Myers from the familial ties that drive him in every movie. Yeah. It's the only time Michael really just gets to, besides the concept of Halloween 2018 when we get into it, it's when we get into it, it's Michael just on a killing spree, Michael just killing people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever get that because it's always he's always following family, he's always going after family, except for in the first one. That wasn't the concept, and that wasn't the idea. He's just a shark. He's just a shark, going for the next kill.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. It sets a new direction from where Michael can go, just defending his house, almost kind of like a Jason thing, defending the camp.
Just people are there, and
then there's no family to deal with anymore. I do wonder, where the hell is John in this? Because this follows H2O. So where the hell is John? I would have liked something with John here. But in this movie, in the credits, they put Michael Myers in the credits. It doesn't say Michael. It says Michael Myers again, and played by Brad Lorry. And Not to be confused with isn't the guy that played Chucky the same name, Brad Lord?
No, Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif. My
Brad
bad.
Dourif, yeah. He
I don't
played
know.
Sheriff Brackett in the Rob Zombie movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was Brad Dourif.
Yes. My apologies.
Fantastic. From what all I hear, a fantastic guy as well. So
You know what's funny? It's like I met Peter Mayhew
okay.
and at a Comic-Con when I was a teenager, and he was a total a-hole. He was a total jerk.
Oh no.
Like my
You
little
hate
cousin.
when that happens.
What's that?
I said you hate when that happens.
I know, like this is Chewbacca. And my cousin went to him. My cousin was like maybe 8 and said, "Can you do the Chewbacca roar?" Like that's what this dude made money on. Like just do it. It's for a kid. I don't care if you've done it a million times that day. Like it's a kid. The kid wants to hear it, you know. And you're Chewbacca. He wouldn't do it. He wanted us to pay him money, and we walked away pissed off. Like this guy's a dick. And then I see freaking Kane Hodder, and we talked to Kane Hodder, and he was one of the nicest dudes I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Like he had like satanic tattoos all up and down his arm. you know, like,
right.
Like, have you thanked the Lord Satan today? Whatever. But he was one of the nicest freaking dude. He took pictures with us. I don't know where those pictures went, but he signed an autograph with me and said, "Thanks for talking with me, Bryan. Don't forget though, you're next."
Nice.
Like I have it somewhere.
I've heard that he's just fantastic. He's so personable. He'll just talk with whoever comes up to talk with. He's not just there to sign everything.
No.
He always wears gloves while he's out there doing his thing. People will get pictures, but it's like a known fact. Like if you go to visit him, if you go to meet him and you ask to be choked, like he's going to grab your throat. Like he doesn't just do like he'll actually go like, you know what I mean? And like grip, because his hand he's a big guy, you know what I mean? So his hand goes halfway around your throat anyways. But that's a real thing. Like he's gonna grab you. He's not gonna choke you, but he's gonna grab your throat.
I probably should have established a safe word with him.
Just don't make it flour.
Yeah. You're gonna say, you're saying flour, but you really mean flour, and he's just not gonna get it.
So let's touch on. I thought about when we would touch on Halloween 3, but I think let's just touch on it now. Why don't we?
Sure. Can I go first?
Yeah.
I had not watched Halloween 3 ever.
Really?
Until last year.
Okay.
I had saved it at one point with my ex-brother-in-law. They were showing it at the Gateway Cinema in Columbus, and we were going to go, and then we ended up not going. And so like it was one of those movies like I wanted to watch around Halloween time, so eventually last year, like everything was on Peacock, and it's on Peacock again this year. And here's my thing: if you can step outside the idea of Halloween, that it doesn't have Michael Myers, I actually liked Halloween 3.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of cool stuff in it. That's actually a movie that's on my movies that should be remade list, because I think, and I don't want to jump the gun, I think if you're going to do a Halloween TV series, I think you can mine some things from Halloween 3.
Mm-hmm.
The name doesn't make sense, Season of the Witch, because there's really not a real witch in it. I would cut out that.
That's what that cult is in there.
That's semantics of stuff that doesn't make sense. I would make it a real witch's coven, like straight, or a real witch. And get rid of kind of the cult and trying to tie it to like the Celts. I would do it differently. I'm not gonna spoil my idea, but I would do it differently. But I think other than like an old dude really hitting on a young girl, like, trying to slay that like about girl that's young enough to be his daughter. I think Season of the Witch is cool. I think the ending is neat and very kind of not open-ended, but it has kind of this oh no, what exactly is going to happen? What happened? Ending. And there's a lot of cool, like, of course, like the three masks, make their way back into the Halloween franchise. But they're never called the Shamrock Masks or whatever. So I think the Halloween 3 is neat. The first time they try to do an anthology, and I think I don't want to jump to our end about with the TV series, but I think mining Halloween 3 and the idea of an anthology and do it kind of in the vein of, like, let's say the film Trick or Treat, where it's multiple storylines that connect on the same time. Like currently, Solomon and I and Sayla are watching the new Goosebumps series, and this isn't spoilers, so don't worry. But what's happening is there's an event that happens on Halloween night, and some of the episodes go back and show you something else that happened on that night from a different POV that you didn't experience, and then they'll jump back to the main timeline. So I think something like that could be neat for a Halloween series, but that's my thoughts on Halloween 3.
James,
Cool.
what do you think, buddy?
Well, I mean,
It's gonna
Halloween
rain.
3.
Thanks, James.
Now to sports. Halloween 3. Yeah, it's it's funny that it goes with the anthology. Michael Myers isn't a person or a thing in that world. It's a movie. It's on the TV screen. It's definitely something different. It's wild. It's a wild movie. I mean, you got Tom Atkins, like you said, sleeping with a college chick, like
I'm
maybe,
glad she was in college.
right? I saw a meme, that Drake meme where he's like,
Yeah.
no, and then he's like, yeah, and it was the Drake meme, and he was like going no to his kids, and it was like to the chick in the shower and his beers. It was like, yeah. So Dr. Chalice is a crazy character. I mean, they take a Stonehenge stone,
Yep,
and transport it across the world, halfway across the world. The supposed witches, the Shamrock masks, it just melts their heads into snakes and bugs and stuff. Like, it's a totally wild movie, and the fact that it ends in a way where like one station goes down, but it's all over the station, so it's still just like gonna be like this mass murder, this mass death event that's gonna happen, and that's how it ends. I mean, as a horror movie, it's pretty wild, the things that they do in it. I mean, the machines, the robotic people, like who kill and rip people apart in the movie.
I mean, we could alter those to some sort of, like, in my pitch, like a voodoo zombie, Haitian zombie type thing. I don't want to give my whole pitch away, but yeah, I just keep saying, like, I think there's more to mine from the Halloween 3 universe.
Yeah. I know, obviously, if you look at it as a Halloween movie, because Halloween is synonymous with Michael Myers, nobody likes it in that respect. But if you just watch it as a scary movie that takes
As
place
a movie.
around, as a movie,
for Halloween, yeah.
movie for Halloween, on Halloween, yeah, it's not an awful movie.
It's a good 80s horror.
It is a good
film.
80s horror film. Yeah. It's disturbing. It's it really gives you some of those uneasy feelings, and that's why I think it's a good horror film.
I think if you look at this movie as not, make sure I use my wording right, I hope, so people know what I mean. If you look at it as a Halloween movie, as in the whole franchise, it doesn't work. But if you look at it as a Halloween movie, as the holiday, Halloween, it works. Like it hits all it hits all the Halloween type things. You know, it has you have it at Halloween time. You got little masks, you got crazy spooky stories, you got mythology, stuff like that. It works.
I think if you even remove the 3, if it was just Halloween Season of the Witch, it would
remove the 3.
You know what I mean? It would just be that, and I think it would sell just as well.
I would agree. If I were to remake it, it would be called like Season of the Witch. Like I would just call it that.
Yeah.
And I would take advantage of the song, like in the opening credits, the Donovan song "Season of the Witch," like that opening guitar riff. Ding, 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 ding.
You mean not the song "2 More Days to Halloween"?
That would be in there because it's catchy and it goes with the gimmick. I mean, think of the world where we live in. Okay, let me pitch this at you guys.
I don't want to think of our world.
Yeah, I know it's scary as hell. If Amazon came with their own special Amazon limited Halloween masks, free shipping,
Yeah.
If a company like that was, sending out the masks all around the world fast, like,
Yeah, that's pretty mass distribution.
So,
yeah, it's like, so this is also the first Halloween movie that doesn't start on Halloween. It actually starts on October 23rd.
it's it starts the farthest. The rest of them, like the other ones might start like the 30th or the 29th. Like we might get a
23rd.
scene. Yeah, this one's up there.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like 8 days. It starts 8 days before Halloween. I put in my notes, like, why not just do a week? Why 8 days?
Because
whatever.
They're a Beatles fan. They're like 8 days a week.
I thought it was funny that we get the return of Annie.
Well, you needed that extra day to bang the young girl, and then the rest of the time to figure out the mystery.
I think you bring up a very good point, James. You do need that extra sexy time. I thought it was funny that Annie comes back in a different role, like Annie from the very first film. She plays his wife, like the doctor's wife.
That really helps cement that it's on Earth too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Earth 3 or whatever. 3.
I thought that was interesting. Like
Earth James.
And putting in a different universe with having Halloween 1 on different TV.
Exactly.
One thing I don't like about this movie is I don't like how you don't have, like, Dr. Dan, if you will. You don't have a protagonist, really. Like, Dr. Dan is a real piece of shit, and like you can't root for him because he's running away from his kids. He's banging this like young girl. Like, you can't get on his side. The interesting notes here I have here is so Santa Maria, California was farmland. The town was founded in 1887. So after WW2, a wealthy Irishman, Conal Cochran, converted it into a toy factory, Silver Shamrock Novelties. Now giving over to the manufacturing and sale of Halloween masks, which is the largest in the world. Community is predominantly Irish. And he has CCTV watching the whole town. So what I thought was particularly freaking interesting is I like if we're going to make Halloween anthology series, I would like Michael's mask to be a Shamrock mask.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it's just kind of pull it all together. I think these masks look freaking awesome. Like the color on them, like the bright orange, the green of the witch, like it's just the mask looks so freaking good. The makeup work on people losing their faces and their faces blowing up looks pretty darn good. I kind of like it. The Celtic thing and stealing Stonehenge and this whole entire,
I think if you would have left out them stealing Stonehenge and made it like Celtic believers, because that goes back to Samhain and like a huge origin of Halloween. Kind of helps pull it together, you know. But the fact they stole a piece of Stonehenge, that just kind of gets weird.
I think that's pretty interesting. Like I think this movie has a lot of potential for where they can go with story wise, especially when they go into the TV way and whatever they want to do, and you know the shared universe and stuff. And I think that Shamrock Masks is really kind of like the link that should tie it all. Like it's that there's just these cursed masks, and that's how we're doing it.
I like the idea, like nowadays, like if this was a real thing, going back to like a modern day, like we're gonna, you know, have this thing, this special show, countdown to Halloween, like you can watch on your TV, on your phone, on your watch, on your tablet, on your computer, like, you know, the whole world's watching at the same time, kind of thing. So everyone's tuned in. I think makes it a lot more scary, you know.
It's like the deceased virus. Every screen in the world gets hit.
Mm-hmm.
How many people change like that?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about this. I thought about talking about this movie before Ends because of just how Ends works is almost a whole different story. But let's.
Well, they also use the Halloween 3 font.
Yes.
For Ends.
Yes.
So
showing you that you might have a seizure because it's flashing so much, but also that you were getting something a little differently.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and that's that. Now we get into the H40 timeline. All right. Probably one of the best timelines there is, if not the best. It depends how you feel. Halloween H40, if you will. Halloween 2018. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that scrapping the whole Laurie as a sister thing was the right move? Do you think it wasn't the right move? Like what did you feel about this? Like kind of going into it and all the anticipation, James? We can't hear you, James.
My bad. I was muted. I apologize.
You're all
right. Yeah, 2018. You know, finding out that they were planning on scrapping that stuff. I was wondering where it was going to go. It had been such a big part of the series, even come the zombie remakes. You know, Michael was always Laurie's brother. But so it was just kind of going back to the beginning to one. The idea that he was just a killer, that wasn't the case. Without complicating it, because we do know that as a franchise that it weighted down. I think as it progressed, you know, trying to connect it to family, trying to be some reason why he was always coming after a family member. So Michael just showing up. I mean, when it comes down to it, I actually really enjoy this movie. It's one of my top Halloween films. I think it's done very well. I do love the idea where Michael is not. I like the idea where Michael is just kind of he's killing everything in his path. You know, I did talk about that with Resurrection. Like he's like a shark, you know, just moving on to the next kill. I like that concept in this movie, especially the tracking shot when he's walking through the neighborhood, just in and out of houses, killing people one after another. It's a fantastic shot. It's a great Michael Myers. You know, the Michael Myers in this trilogy is really great.
Do you think that Laurie was in the headspace that she should have been 40 years later? Or do you think that she should have been in a happier place?
You know what? I mean, honestly, that's really tough to say. It did happen in the 70s, and for 30 years, for 30 years still past that, getting psychiatric help, there was a stigma to that. Now, I'm saying maybe within the last 10 years, it's kind of become a more accepted thing that maybe most people should talk to somebody just for a lot of reasons.
I see what you're saying.
Just
Yeah.
traumatic
I see what you're saying now.
experiences. You know what I'm saying? That you should talk to somebody.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, mental health is a real thing, and I think people are really starting to understand that in the past 10 years or so. Like I said, there was a stigma on that, so she would have had that trauma, and she might have not gotten help for it. If we consider Haddonfield the way it is, the kids and the parents and all those people, everybody's assholes. So many, at least so
That's
many.
what you said on the first part of this.
Yeah, at least so many of them. I mean, we go to ends and those kids are terrible. Those teenagers.
I'm just going to comment, like, I think if you look at it, that's the jumping point for the story. If we kind of got an idea of how Lori coped in 20 years, she was functioning.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you asked Bryan originally if doing it this way was the right call. I say yes. If you're going to bring Jamie Lee back and you need to do some sort of a fresher spin, you need to erase all that. You got to find a jumping on point.
Yeah.
Which
and I think that was the right way to go, because you stripped it back to being serious. You have the commentary in it. If we're looking at just H40, about, Michael Myers was scary, but he only killed 5 people, 4 people one night, whatever it was. And they make fun of him.
Not the 100 body kill count.
Right. And the hardest part with this film was going in and trying to, in my headspace, just connect it to the first movie. Like, Michael only did the stuff in the first movie. And
it's so hard to do. It's so hard.
It is
to throw that all out of your mind. And and Jerez said something great yesterday. He was like, that they couldn't have done that, without having the internet.
Yeah, because it helps so much. Like, being able to tell people, that doesn't count. We're skipping this. We're just counting this sequel. I don't think that's ever really been done until this age, where we think more like that and type. One thing I will say for this film, and it carries the kills, I love the cinematography. I love the look. I love that they shot, as much as I'd love them to shoot in Illinois, they shot in North Carolina, and it looks great. It really looks great. And that's something, it feels like fall. It really feels like fall. I still think David Gordon Green was an interesting choice. As far as a director.
Yeah, I think one in Kills, I think he did a hell of a job. Even with Ends, he did a hell of a job. It's just a questionable movie.
Yeah. But I like, H40. Bryan and I got to go see it together. I like how they worked with getting Hawkins as a cop that was there to kind of help trying to introduce a new character that had ties to the first film. So I'm trying to think. The whole podcaster thing I think is funny because, we have people it's become a trope in shows and stuff. People who do these true crime podcasts or whatever, who just kind of think like they're respectable journalists or whatever, and people should they just poke their nose into things. That was a big point in the last season / reboot of Dexter. When they brought it back, was where's this girl who was a true crime podcaster coming in and annoying everybody and, trying to be the press or whatever. So the fact that you have these two people, coming in and, I think part of what H40 was interested in was the idea of Michael, everyone takes him as not serious. Like, oh, he's an old man who did this how many years ago for 5 people, and he's washed up. And then when he gets freed, it's like, oh snap, he's an old dude that is blind rage. So
I was so worried about this movie until that opening scene. That opening scene, I was like, okay, all right. When the podcaster pulls out that mask from that bag and holds it out, and all the inmates are going insane, like just that being in their presence. Like, I mean, that made me wonder, when I was thinking about theories for ends, that made me wonder, like, is it a shamrock mask? Does it hold certain power to it? And like him pulling that out, and can you feel it? Can you feel it, Michael? I thought that was such a great touch. And the podcaster just walking to the very edge of that yellow line, to the very like maximum who could be allowed to walk. I thought that was such a great opening scene. And when he escapes and he finds the podcasters, and he's pulling it back on for the first time, and it's battered and it's old, and it's beat up. It's just and
the mask, it looks so good.
It looks so good. I mean, so good. That mask might look better than the original, but that might be pushing it. Yeah, it probably is pushing it, but it looks really good. Some things I like. Some things I wrote here though. Lori. They mentioned that Lori had 2 failed marriages before. Like, I almost wonder if that was like a slight possibility that she could have had other kids. Like that was like kind of hinting at Jamie and John, maybe. I put that also that Lori calls him the Shape for the first time as in this movie. What else?
I think the thing that they did pretty good in this trilogy was pulling Easter eggs from the past. Things like the font at the beginning, the way the credits are in this film, like they are the original, very much like the original Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. And that idea of 2 failed marriages, I think it's at least an Easter egg from the past. From the past timeline where she had one.
You could take it more like
child.
that, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So continue on what you have next.
Oh, you're fine. Something that I thought was interesting too is as he's walking through the houses, like in Halloween 2, he steals a knife and he leaves that couple alone. Like, we don't know if Harold got mayo or mustard on his sandwich, but he left him alone. And this one, he's like, "You're in my way, kill you," And it changed. It changed the. I don't know if you want to say motives, but it changed Michael's style in this. It's whoever is in his way in these movies, he's going to kill you. And other ones, I always felt that never made sense in Halloween 2, how he left the old couple alive and then goes next door and he kills that one girl. So it made me wonder if Michael only kills somebody if they're alone or if he's provoked somehow. But in this movie, they kind of throw that out the window. It's just who's ever in his path.
Yeah, I would say yes, but not that Halloween 2 did it great, but the idea that he picks and chooses builds the suspense of what's he going to do.
I like that better.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and this one, like, we talked about like, it's a sequel. You got to raise the body count and all that. Well, you got to look at this. Yes, it's a reboot, but it's still a sequel. So this is kind of number 2. So even though it's the first of a trilogy, it's actually a quadrilogy. So that elevation, because this is the idea of Michael starting to be unleashed. You know, you can really look at Halloween and Kills as one big film, you know, and I think that's something I really like about it. I think it works much better than Halloween 1 and 2. So
I think that he's got 40 years of just killer inside of him. He's been stuck imprisoned for 40 years in this film. He was picked up that same night eventually, and he's been imprisoned for the last 40 years. So I think he's got a lot of killer in him. Kind of when he's out there, like that first night, he was kind of doing what you said. He was like toying, he was kind of picking, you know, but then he never had that choice again for a long time. So first thing he goes out, gets a little bit out of his system, and then maybe beyond there.
Do you okay? Well, I was going to go right. I'll go right. James, is there anything you didn't like about this movie? Anything you're thinking? That you thought maybe was not a good direction?
The thing that I didn't particularly like was how horrible the doctor was.
Sartain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sartain, I have his name.
Yeah.
I probably pronounced it wrong.
He stabs him. He stabs the sheriff in the neck. He releases Michael. He points him towards Lori. Like, you know, I liked the question that they raised of him just, you know, that Lori was there and he was just like chasing her because he was trying to get her and he didn't get her. And it's not like he's back out to get her, but
I'm glad you brought that up.
There. Like,
that's
because
one of the main things I want to discuss.
He was directed to her. I kind of like that idea, questioning, was he going to ever go for Lori if she just stayed out in the woods and never knew, and he wasn't directed that way?
I think the point was the whole thing. She's obsessed with him.
Yeah.
That he's going to come for her. And in honesty, I think the way they do it is he doesn't care about her. She means nothing to him. And that's the big thing, is she's obsessed over him, that he's coming for her. And he's like, no, he doesn't care. Yeah. You know, we see in this, he's just trying to go back home, you know, and it is Sartain that wants to see Michael and Lori, and he's the one that, you know, gets Michael to her and all this. But in all honesty, Michael's like, well, I'm here just to kill. I'm going to kill her. He doesn't care about who she is. And that's the point, is about how some people will take a trauma, a tragedy, and it will obsess over it. And the people who inflict on the victims don't care.
Yeah, it'll define their life. And did he even recognize her when he came face to face with her again? You know? Or was it just another blank face to kill?
Right.
See, I don't think, I think Michael does want to go after her. I think in his mind, if she's like, I think he does want to go. And,
by the end,
the reason I think that
way.
What's that?
I said by the end, they certainly made it that way. Not the end of this film, but the end of the series.
Yeah, if you just look at this one, if you're just looking at this one,
yeah,
he's just killing because if the case was that she got away, he would have went after everyone. He doesn't even know who's alive or who's dead. He hasn't been following up with anybody. Like, you know,
you see Michael on Google in the psychiatric hospital. Laurie Strode.
Siri, is Laurie dead yet? But I keep going back. Like, the whole point that they were trying to drive in this movie was that he doesn't care about Lori, that she cares so much about him. She's obsessed her whole life about him. knowing when he's being transferred, knowing everything, preparing. And then the doctor just puts them together, puts the stoppable force and the movable object together. But if you go back to that first movie, like, and the whole case was Lori didn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
I can't agree with it, because when she goes to his house, he could have just let it go. She was in front of his house and that was it. But he pursues her because she went to his freaking house.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll go with that, but I also look at he was, the whole point was he was hunting. He was the babysitter murder, and he was going after them. But she was protected by the rules of the, of being the sweet and innocent, and the whole story was innocence and goodness overcame evil, in the first film. But I mean, you definitely have a point. Like, if the whole idea is because they talk about his house, like he's protective of his house, who's in his house, and everything. But I don't think he would go and seek to kill her after 40 years. He has no conscience. I think he's just going home, and if anyone's there, or if anyone, comes at his house, then he'll kill him. Because I mean, that's kind of what happens in Kills. So
I just think it's a contradictory motive here, because if he didn't care, then why did he go after her in the first place in the first movie? Like, there had to be some reason why he wanted to kill her and wanted to go after her, and then to just be like he didn't care. I can't say I fully disagree, or agree with that. I'm sorry.
But he also waits till she's the last one he goes after. If he was really after her that bad for being at his house, he would have went after her. But he was stalking her for being at his house. So, I mean, it works. But I just feel like after the 40 years, maybe I don't know.
Moved on.
Yeah, like
but she has.
Like he's just going home now. Like, and that I think, but that's the whole her holding on and him letting go. I think is part of the bigger story of like talking about trauma and people's reactions to trauma and how they will let it define their lives, and the perpetrators will move on.
Yeah, I think you're totally agree that Michael has moved on. Like, well, I mean, he doesn't really care anymore. He might have cared then, but he doesn't really care now. I think you're right. Tyler, is there anything that you didn't like about this movie?
I didn't like the way they did Sartain. Like, I can understand.
Yeah,
I can understand his character being obsessed and hearing Loomis talk about how he's evil and he's this, because we can kind of gather that's how Loomis would talk throughout the years after just watching the first film about Michael, and then wondering what Michael would be like now, and then wanting to get Michael and Lori together kind of as a experiment. But like him putting on the mask and stuff like that, I felt was like a little too far. So I mean, that's kind of where I feel like the movie, like, it starts great, it goes great for a while, and then there's like in the middle kind of gets bogged down a little bit. So, but yeah,
I want to. Do you think the movie could have benefited if the podcasters would have got Lori to go to the mental hospital, and then that's what made Michael react? Or do you think that would have hurt the movie? Because I think I said to you a good many times, Tyler, like talking, like as we were waiting for the next movies to come out, like I kind of almost wanted that scene where Michael sees Lori after all these years, and that's kind of what made him kind of escape. Or, well, we know Sartain had to escape, but
if they would have done that defeats the whole she means nothing to him, like,
agree,
the trauma story. So because I think part of this is if the other films were defined by the Lori Michael connection, and in this it's Lori who's forcing the connection. Like she's keeping that, like, I survived, I'm the survivor. She's keeping that connection alive. Well, to him, that's not what it is. So
yeah. I thought the ending was pretty damn good. How, and with them setting the trap for Michael and having that ready, the battle in the house was really good, and setting him ablaze in the basement and him just standing there as the flames go and him just looking up at Lori. I thought that was a freaking awesome ending, and and then and then for that to kind of, as we transition into kills, the opening of the fire department going toward her house, and her being like, no, you know.
Let it burn.
I thought that's a really good transition, like going right into it. Any last minute things about 2018 Halloween? Anybody?
the one thing was, even though the way they set it up at the end, we knew that wasn't the end. Because they'd already started talking about like it was going to be a trilogy. So we went into the film with the idea that it wasn't going to stop there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're right. We knew we were going to get more to the story. So for that being the first chapter and ending that way, like, you're right. That's the first time we're going into a Halloween movie knowing that we're getting more right from the get-go.
But if you're making a movie and you're worried about people analyzing it and gathering news and overthinking your movie before they even go to see it, you're going to write yourself into spirals and you're never going to, end up in a good place. So if you write for the general audience who goes to the new Halloween movie just to see Michael burning to death at the end of the film, you're like, awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like didn't they say that they had like an idea in mind, but they were waiting to see how people reacted to 2018 before they wrote kills, and then seeing how people reacted to kills before they wrote ends?
Well, originally they had said they had the idea to do the trilogy, but they were waiting to see how the people react to this one, and then they were going to do the next two back to back.
Yeah.
But then COVID happened, of course, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to ends. So yeah, they left it with that open, because like Bryan and I watched through the credits. At the very end of the credits, you hear him breathing. It's like raspy voice, raspy breath. So yeah.
So all right. Halloween Kills. Some people really love this one. Some people don't. James, which one of those people are you?
I mean, I would lean more towards the like side. I wouldn't say that I love it. As a film, like I said, it doesn't stand alone. Really, it's the beginning. Sure, like him getting out with the firefighters, which, in my opinion, I mean, it's a great scene, but it does elevate Michael to like Jason supernatural levels, post when he comes back to life, like having it going against a whole bunch of people and just taking them all out. One thing I do like about this movie is definitely how much more brutal Michael is in this film. Like, he is very he's usually mean. He's usually pretty brutal, I mean, when he grabs somebody, he doesn't just smash their head down once, he repeatedly bashes it against the wall. That is Michael. He's pretty intense with his kills. Goes a little overboard. And so you get to see a lot of that in this film. It doesn't stand alone. It gives you Michael walking off into the sunset at the end, nearly. He kills a whole bunch of people again after they've already beaten him and I don't know why they didn't shoot him and stuff, but they just repeatedly beat him and stabbed him.
They just need to
He
shoot him
should be
6
dead.
times.
He should be dead, but he gets up and then he kills a whole bunch of people and then walks off.
Yep. Like they could have shot him from a distance.
I mean,
They
you got the Empire winning at the end of the second film.
I mean,
You know,
this is, like you said, this movie suffers because even not looking at the first one, this is the middle chapter, you know, and then it is very much the middle chapter sequel of a trilogy.
but I do like it. I actually want to watch the H4O trilogy again. I haven't gotten the chance this Halloween season yet. But I do like kills. It's interesting the way they take it, the way that people it furthers that trauma storyline from the first one and from Laurie. The Tommy in the bar, the nurse from the first one, she returns again. So
And Lindsay.
And Lindsay.
Yep. And Lindsay, yeah.
And Sheriff Brackett.
Yeah, it touches everybody. You know, the type of tragedy and what happens around them touches everybody, and they all keep it alive by talking about it every year.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to let you.
It's an interesting concept and an interesting bunch of characters. And like I said, I like Michael in this movie. He's pretty brutal. So,
is there anything you felt like this was not a good way to continue this story?
I mean,
or things that were revealed that you were like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, just the lynch mob and stuff. I mean, the repeated evil dies tonight, the chants and everything. Got a little much for me. At one point, I was like, okay, guys. I mean, I guess the lynch mob's got to keep the energy going, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what they accomplished in Halloween 4. You know, they shot an innocent person and they shot Michael down into the shaft.
James will give him a different shaft.
Yeah. All right. Tyler.
Okay.
Halloween Kills.
So I think Kills works in the sense of it increases the brutality that we're ramping up to. You know, it's like he's been freed and we're seeing what he has been building to do. They do really well with setting off and checking the boxes of how he could have survived that fire by setting that up in the first film without us really paying attention. There's a lot of interesting little characters in the first film that appear in Kills that we didn't even catch, like the nurse and the doctor, the husband and wife characters. We see them in the first one. That the black lady and her husband who get attacked was the cemetery groundskeeper in the first one.
Oh.
So things like that connect the two. The two are really good to watch back to back. I like Kills. I think cinematography, it looks great. I think one of the smartest things they did was the opening of Kills, where it goes back and shows us what happened the rest of that Halloween night. Because we needed to see how Michael got locked up. Because if you're just going off the first movie, he just disappears. So this shows us how they capture him at the house and how they set up the whole thing about him coming home and him standing and looking over the town and everything from him. So that really cements that, like, that's needed, you know, in the storytelling. It's a long movie, first of all, for being a horror slasher film. But as far as, I like how they bring the Shamrock masks. They're in this film and all the other characters that appear. I'm with James. The Evil Dies Tonight does get a little old. It is a little too much. The thing I don't like about this one is I hate the firefighter scene. because
Why?
because to me that just takes it to a new level of, because the whole, like, you're with the last movie, you're kind of in the sense that this is believable. This guy is just a serial killer, but the fact that he slaughters a crew of firemen with axes and hoses and he gets hit by water, that water pressure is extreme. Okay. The fact that he can take that and then he comes out in a very, like, it almost tries to flip it that now you're cheering for Michael. Like, yeah, he's going to do some,
I've been hit by a fire hose before. And let me tell you, yeah, no mortal man
so I mean,
could withstand that very well.
You look at footage of when they use those in riots and stuff and protests and take people down. Like, the fact that he, like, if it had just been the firemen show up and they're leaving and Michael comes out and takes out like a couple of them, fine. But the fact that he like comes out ready to take on the whole squad, that was too much to me, where I was like, this doesn't, you've done a great job of taking him back to being believable. And now you're escalating him back to being almost supernatural. And the whole point was we were coming out of the Halloween 6 supernatural phase. So I hate the firefighter scene. I just do. Like, to me,
the water they hit him with, when you see it, it's like, yeah, that's not a fire hose.
right.
Like, it looks like a fire hose first spraying, and then when it's hitting him, that's a drastic change in pressure.
So, I mean, that scene to me just feels like it belongs in a different movie. Like you said, like a Jason type scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ending about this film. Now, have you guys ever watched the extended cut or the alternate cut or whatever?
Yep.
In that
I think
one,
it's the only one I've watched.
See, now that one is when it ends where Lori talks to Michael and says, "I'm coming for you," and she exits the hospital holding the knife, going after him.
Yep.
And that's important to bring up because that is what we were led to believe what the next movie would be, which it's not. So they cut out that, and then the regular is Michael gets the last kill by killing Lori's daughter. So,
and then he goes and he's looking out the window again.
Yeah, because she's standing there, and he comes up behind her and kills her, and that's where it ends. And I will say that Halloween 18, Halloween Kills, they're not fun movies. They're not fun. Like,
they're not fun.
Like, Halloween Kills is an interesting look at like mob mentality and brutality and like a town's fear. And, it's a meditation on fear and what we do because of how they kill that other inmate, because I think that's Michael, the ugly penguin looking guy, and how that just goes crazy. Compared to H2O has fun in it, like we said, when John punches him in the face and stuff, but this is about brutality. So, yeah. So it's probably like, I think this one is the darkest film, and maybe when we get to the next one, we'll talk a little bit about it. But yeah.
So I think what threw me off is I think it's in the unrated version, or it might be in both versions. Like when you get the transition to going back to 78, there's no title that says 1978. It just goes there right away.
Yeah, it does. And that's what threw me off the first time I saw it, because I was like, wait, where are we? What is going on?
We were so thrown off. Like, what's going on? And then we come back to that first night and we get this story with Hawkins, who clearly was freaking dead in 2018.
Oh, yeah,
He didn't get run over as well.
And they brought him back.
Yeah. And then we add this story of he accidentally shot his partner, and that's why, and Michael killed his partner, and then Loomis could have shot Michael and ended it, but he basically screwed up everything, and that's so he vows to kill Michael because he's the reason Michael is still ticking. I think that's interesting, and him having a bit of a love story grow with Lori, I thought was interesting too, bringing them together with trauma. I don't like that Laurie really doesn't do anything in this movie, but in the sense in my head for building up that finale, it's somewhat okay.
Yeah,
It's somewhat okay.
if you're looking at this, the middle chapter,
Yeah,
and it's like Laurie kind of almost sits this one out, and it's about Allison and the other survivors, Tommy, Lindsay, the nurse, Hawkins. It's their story, and then with the way that one ending is going to the third one to being like Laurie's return.
So like when I first saw this one, I didn't really like it a lot. Like I thought it was a mess of a movie. I thought story wise it added some other things that didn't really work. I was mad that Laurie wasn't doing anything. I felt like I felt that having Tommy come back as a character was interesting, but I felt when you get to them, I felt originally watched this movie when you get to that mob scene, like James said, it just it ruins everything that they kind of built. And like we get this whole thing of how the town has been affected by this trauma too. It's not just Laurie; it's affected everybody. And then they just go up to him and he just kills everybody.
I would have done that a little differently.
Yeah, it's just
I would, because if you're going to have him slaughter all of them, I would have made it so they either think that they won or there's less of them or something. And it's just a couple of people. I would have made it a little bit better than how they do it, because once again, this is where they try to make Michael too much of a badass instead of making it just an old man who's a serial killer, so
and it just but so then watching it another time, watching it again before Ends came out, what was in my head and thinking of that ending with Laurie grabbing the knife, like I'm coming for you, you know. So putting it in that perspective that okay, the first movie was he didn't really care about her, and he's just doing his thing, but he's still a man. Like putting in he's still a man, and then in this next movie, no, he's not just a man. Michael is something totally different. He is the embodiment of evil. He's not going to be able to be stopped. And Laurie taking that back seat, and then at that final scene, like I'm coming for you. It builds up to that finale, which made me so excited for Halloween Ends, because I'm like, how the hell is Laurie going to stop this guy? If the whole town can't stop him, if all these firefighters can't stop him, if the flames can't stop him, how the hell is Laurie going to be able to do it? And he just killed her daughter. Like, is there something with the house? Because he keeps going back to Judith's window. Like, what's going on? It got me so freaking excited for the finale. The final battle between Laurie and Michael, and we get what we got. And so let's get right into it.
Well, I mean, like, so just on the end of kills, like,
sure,
Hawkins is back in the hospital with Laurie, and he's telling her, like, Michael wasn't coming for you. It was the doctor who took him to you. And how everybody's like, he's coming after Laurie because she's at the hospital, but he goes nowhere near the hospital. He's not after Laurie. Like, it's reinforcing that idea that it's not it's their trauma that's keeping them obsessed with him, but he's out there doing what he is doing, but he's not coming after Laurie. So that's the end of kills, but then we go into ends, and now like he's after Laurie again.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know what he wants out of the relationship, like most guys.
Ends. So we went last year to see Ends. I was pretty pumped.
We were so pumped.
And I just remember we were sitting in the theater, and I want to step back and say, like, I swear I read, like, the idea of this original trilogy was going to be that it all happens in one night. Like it's the same night, and I feel like with the ending, because I had rewatched Kills beforehand, but I had watched the extended cut, and it ends with Lori, "I'm coming for you," and
Which
all
really
that.
shot me down a little bit because seeing that as the only ending, I'm coming for you, Michael. And then in the beginning of it, she's like, we just have to move on.
Yeah.
You know what I
So,
mean? Like he's been gone for what, 5 years or something.
Yep.
And
my whole thing was, I told Bryan, my whole theory was, it's her coming for him. It's like an hour and a half, tight hour and a half movie, almost like in real time. It's Michael in his home. He's making a run. It's more Lori chasing him. And then the film ends as they're battling, like kind of as the sun comes up on, November 1st, and she's stabbing him and he dies, however they do it, just enforcing like Halloween ends, like the holiday ended, he ends, and it's done. And I was like, okay, that would be awesome. Like one, this trilogy all takes place in one Halloween night. But that was not the film we got.
definitely not.
It's
We went to
So-
the theater, and I just remember sitting there, and they had that opening scene with the tragedy that befalls Corey and how he kills that kid. I just remember it was just so much. I was like, oh my God, that after that, like I just didn't really enjoy anything. Like it was just so horrible at the start that I was just like, dang, this is just horrible. And then, I think the cinematography for Halloween and Halloween Kills is awesome. I love the setting. And then this one's, stark because this is in Georgia, so it doesn't even feel like the same Haddonfield we've had for the past two films. And I said this the other night. If you had done the opening of this film of Lori versus Michael and then the Corey story, it would have been fine. But the fact that you just do this Corey story and you make this like it feels like this is now your reboot, like, and you're telling
what the
another
hell are we
story,
watching?
right? Like you're telling a story about like this trauma of the town and all this, and I'm just like an evil like, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not buying this movie, first of all, because you're gonna tell me for 40 years Lori sat chilling, obsessed with Michael, and it ruined her life. But he kills her daughter and he kills Tommy and all these other people, and now she's okay to just move on.
Now she's okay. Let's bake pies. Everything's fine.
Now she's perfectly fine with her granddaughter who's traumatized as well, who lost her mom, her dad, her boyfriend, all of this, and she's okay now. Like, no, I'm not buying it.
No, it's bullshit.
Like, she just got over her trauma like that.
No.
So
No, because like and they can blame it on COVID all they freaking want, but this is what they had in mind. It's totally what they had in mind the whole time.
COVID, all it did was, make it so that they might look a little older. But I mean, come on, Lori looked older in Halloween 2 than she did in 1, and we're supposed to believe that's the same night. It's movie magic. But
like you said, if she would have started 40, Halloween 40 or H40, whatever, baking pies after 40 years, sure, makes sense. But then the resurgence of Michael caused her in the 5 years to make her house like that, and being this whole tactical battleground.
That's
makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. But like to just you lost all this stuff. You don't know where Michael is. Before he was 40 years in a nut house. Now you don't know where he is. Now you just want to bake pies and take knitting class and maybe you'll have a relationship with Hawkins.
Yeah, you're comfortable with him being at large somewhere, disappeared. You're celebrating Halloween. Your daughter was massacred. You're still in the same town.
Get the hell out of here.
None of that worked for me. Allison all of a sudden going for the bad boy Corey didn't work for me.
Nope.
She's traumatized, fine. Corey's story was fine. But like I said, that was if you were doing the reboot, like this was a new spinoff. Like if you had started this film with Lori versus Michael, had her kill Michael in the opening scenes, and then had something where the mask gets lost and it falls into the sewer or whatever. And then you like fade to black, credits open up on the Halloween the next year, and that's when the Corey thing happens where he kills that kid. And then
We
you
do
jump
a
5 years.
reverse opening of Resurrection.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie is Corey dealing with the pull of evil and like how the idea that the shape of Michael is gone and now the new shape takes form and this evil is inside. Like that would work. Like, okay.
What pisses
the
me off the
idea
most
that
about the
that he passed the evil on to him, like he wasn't evil until Michael started choking him, and then like
they
looked
shared
into his eyes, and
like they.
Well,
Yeah,
I think I said to you guys, like, while watching the end trailer, I was like, he looks in Michael's eyes and it transfers. That's
Yeah.
what this whole story with this Corey thing is. I'm telling you guys, we're in for something scary, like not good scary, like word scary.
and that would have been fine if like Corey maybe like if you would have had Corey around or something, like Michael ran into him like during that final battle with Laurie, and like the idea is he transferred it before he died, before Laurie killed him or something. Sure.
What's
Or
what's the biggest pile of bullshit other than the whole Corey thing? The biggest pile of bullshit is that Corey dies. Like,
yeah,
to spend 90 minutes, almost 2 hours with this whole freaking character, not getting Michael, getting Michael as whatever, retired Batman, Frank Miller wrote this movie, whatever. And getting Corey as like the new Michael, whatever, and then just kill Corey at the end negates everything that we just built, everything that we just did. This whole transfer of evil. It's like
they killed Corey.
Like they were making a whole different movie, kind of rebooting the whole story, and then they're like, oh, wait a second, we didn't do this final battle with Michael and Laurie. Oh, okay, get rid of this guy, kill him, Michael.
Yeah,
come on, buddy, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean they kill Corey, then Michael takes back over, and then they finish it off, and you're like, oh, so Halloween ends because of this? What? I don't.
Evil dies tonight.
It was not the sequel, the trilogy ended that we were promised.
Nope.
We
all that build for nothing.
If I remember right, didn't all three of us watch Halloween Kills on Peacock? Like when
I think so.
Because I know
you and I went to see in theaters though.
Not Kills. We watched it on Peacock because we both watched it.
Oh, Kills on Peacock, yeah.
Because we watched it and then we all went to the Comic-Con the next day. But Kills, Ends, you and I were pumped for, and we were there opening night, like that Thursday. And we were pissed.
We're so, oh my God.
I don't think I've ever been so pissed after seeing a movie. And like
and we saw Green Lantern.
I'm not a Halloween diehard fan. Like I'm a casual, viewer. So like I wasn't as invested into it, and I was pissed. Because I just felt like they just tossed away the whole mechanics of everything they had built. It felt like this was almost kind of an H2O-esque sequel again, where it connects to this, but it doesn't have to connect to this. We're rebooting. And then it just would have made so much more sense to do the opening scene with Michael's death and then kind of hand the movie off to Allison and Corey and let that kind of start to be their thing where he becomes the new shape of evil. And I mean, I really feel like they tried to cement, like I said, this movie back in the idea he was just a murderer. There was no supernatural element. We were kind of going for this more realistic serial killer. And then the whole idea of him staring in the eyes and transferring the evil starts to get, once again, back to the supernatural element. And it just, I watched it the one time in theaters and I'll probably never watch it again.
Yeah, I think the only part of the movie I will watch again is that last scene, like the last battle. I will, I'll just fast forward to that. But it pisses me off because we started so strong with Halloween 2018, and then we took it up a notch and made Michael this unstoppable machine. Like, how are you going to defeat this guy? And then it's like, it's almost like a Return of the Jedi type thing. Like we have this unstoppable empire, and then we're just going to defeat them with Ewoks. Yeah, I don't know. It's like this. It's just I'm so pissed off by how much build there was for this final battle,
But
and
we
then
saw him. Yeah, I was gonna say we saw him as this massive, brutal machining kills, and then the next time we see him, he's this feeble
he's
old
so
man
weak. He
hiding
can't
in
do
the
shit.
sewer for 5 years, just hiding in the sewer. And I'm
It's
like,
an absolute disrespect, disgrace to Michael as a character, Michael as a villain, everything we built, everything we're trying to do. And I think the only thing I kind of would have been okay with the Corey story is if he would just survived. And honestly, if he would have kept his scarecrow mask, like that simple scarecrow mask with the innocence of it was
mhm.
kind of I was kind of it was kind of working for me. Like I was trying to like this movie. I was, but and I don't think it's necessarily an old man mentality, like or a film geek mentality that we just hate this movie because that's we're gatekeepers or whatever garbage you want to say. I'm sorry, the movie was bad because of how it was billed and
Mhm.
and it didn't deliver on what it needed to do.
And it was
Any
long
other
too.
thoughts? Any other thoughts on this, boys?
James was like, you guys
You
haven't even
get
let me talk.
What's
He
that?
was like, screw you guys.
just sitting back and listening to the vitriol. I mean, the movie, it wasn't what it was billed to be, which is always disappointing. I
Yes.
mean, you don't want to tell the audience what's going to happen, but you also don't want to tell them something's going to happen, then it's just completely different than what you said. That
Most
kind of
Hey,
advertising.
disappoints people, pisses people off. Um, I mean, the movie, you get this shocking opening, you know,
That opening was really good.
yeah.
How that kid died was like, whoa.
I mean, it made me like, oh, I feel uncomfortable.
Oh shit. I have it on over here. I just watched
Nah,
the kid
that kid was
fall.
a little shit. Let him die.
Um, yeah. So I mean, super shocking opening, and then yeah, the movie is like such this slow build. You spend all this time with Allison and Jeremy, uh, and it. Jeremy kind of seems like he's gonna be
Corey.
Corey. Why do I keep saying
See,
Jeremy's
the
the kid?
movie's
Jeremy's
pissed you off so much you don't even care what his name is.
yeah, Corey.
Corey Feldman.
He was you saw his fall. It's just and the turn he took. It was it's an interesting concept when they went to that supernatural route. You just wonder why they went this supernatural route, and then in the end they just basically make him a man, and he gets killed by Lori and Allison. It's really kind of all over the place, and maybe it was, who knows, maybe it's too much time for them to try and overthink it and overcomplicate it throughout the whole time. I don't know. Some people do things better with time, some people don't, and maybe Halloween Ends is one of those things that got ruined with the time, whereas Terrifier 2 got built up and improved with the time.
It's yeah, it's just there are some parts of it where that do work for a fitting ending. Like just the last 20 minutes or so does work as an okay ending. But like
It does.
yeah, I mean, and you see Lori be able to possibly be happy, with Hawkins. You see her really kill Michael. Like Michael's he gone, boy.
Mhm.
I like how it ended with the mask on the table. Um, And didn't Lori say that evil just changes shape? Like, did she say the line that we wanted her to say?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure, yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember. I wanted her to say it because that's what I wanted the story to be, is like the idea that Michael's dead, but evil will be back in a new shape.
Yeah. It didn't go the way we wanted to. And that is 45 years of the Halloween, ladies and gentlemen. So James, how do you rank these movies? Like, did you happen to make a ranker?
I did make a ranking.
I'm curious.
I got it right here, and I'm bringing it up.
I'm getting mine as well.
I did bump through our talk. I did bump up Halloween Kills one spot. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. So what you've seen is just bumped one spot, but I give it to you here. I actually have Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers as number 13 in last place. Halloween 5: The Revenge of Michael Myers in 12th. I have Halloween 2: Zombie 2 in 11th.
Oh, okay.
H2.
H2. Yes. Actually, and I would actually switch these now. I would put Halloween Ends in 10th place, and Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers in 9th place.
Oh, okay.
Got Season of the Witch in 8th place. Halloween Resurrection in 7th. Halloween Kills in 6th. H2O is 5th. Halloween 2 is 4th. Zombies Halloween is 3rd.
Ooh.
2018 is 2nd, and the original is number 1.
Yeah, you're not too far off from mine, but Tyler, what you got, buddy?
Okay, so starting with number 13 is H2. Then Resurrection.
That's similar to a lot of people.
Then The Curse of Michael Myers.
Mm-hmm.
Then Halloween Ends.
Really? Okay.
And then Halloween 5. Halloween 4 is number 8. Number 7 is Season of the Witch. 6 is Kills. 5 is Halloween 2. And then my top 4, numbers 2, 3, and 4 could probably shift around depending on how I'm feeling. But number 4 is Rob Zombie's Halloween. Number 3 is H2O. Number 2 is Halloween 2018. And then, of course, the first one is number 1. That's not going to change. But
Yeah, no, I think most people's list, even if like H2O or something was the first one they saw, when they see the original, they're like, yeah, that's definitely.
it's just the first one's just so plain and simple and effective.
No, I think our lists are somewhat similar. For number, so I have 14 on my list because
you did the producer's cut.
I put the producer's cut in there. Yeah. So 14, I did make some adjustments. I made one adjustment. So number 14, I put Halloween 2 Rob Zombie. Because
so we all agree.
I can't even finish the movie. It's just when he sees his mom in the white horse, I'm done.
Yep.
I can't continue. It's just, what the hell is this? Number 13 at Halloween Ends, because it makes me so pissed off. Number 12 is the theatrical Curse of Michael Myers. Number 11 is the producers. I thought it was a little bit. I rank it a little bit higher only because you get more of the story. But it's not that much. It's barely hanging in there. Next, I have Halloween 5 because I feel that's where everything really jumps the shark and goes to trash. Number 9, I have Halloween 3 because I like Michael and there's no protagonist really, and it's then I have Resurrection on number 8 because it's still a Michael movie and I do somewhat like the concept of him guarding his house. Like I can't. That's okay. Then I have Halloween 4 because I look at Halloween 4 as kind of like if you just look at it as a standalone Michael movie, it kind of works. It's not as bad. I have Halloween 2 as number 6. I have Halloween Kills as number 5. And then my top 4 are number 4, Rob Zombie's Halloween, number 3, H2O, number 2, 2018, and number 1, the original.
No, your top 4 the same as mine.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely the way to go. So lastly, boys, we've just received word a year after Halloween ends that Miramax has got the rights for Halloween kind of, I guess, one more time. And they want to do a shared TV universe of Halloween. So, James, starting with James, where do you want Halloween to go? What do you want them to do? Do you even see Michael Myers as Halloween anymore?
So, I mean, Michael Myers has always been Halloween to me. It'd be interesting. It's curious to think if they went like that anthology type story route. That was the original like sequel concept beyond the first one. And I can see that working in different ways because of things like American Horror Story.
Sure.
There's an audience for that. And I think if it does go that route, we might get we might be able to get some sort of Michael Myers in a different way. Who's to say I don't think they'll abandon Michael Myers in that respect, because I think he's too much the face of Halloween. So I think I don't know what kind of story to consider that they would do, because he can't just be a mindless killer, because that doesn't continuously work, for a show, even for a franchise. They had to do other things.
Yeah, that's why we get such this convoluted
Yeah.
history and layers. And
so I definitely, I'm just not sure what routes that they would take with, I don't know. Like, we've done that family route. We've done some familial connection multiple times in multiple different ways. I mean, heck, in my opinion, if you know what, come to think of it, in my opinion, if you want to kind of do it in an anthology type way, you could do Michael Myers going after John, maybe going after the Jamie's baby, who's all grown up. Have Allison somewhere. I mean, you could do an anthology that way, or maybe tie it all together and it's about, I don't know. You can't have Michael if he's dead, going after all of the grandchildren, or all of the children and grandchildren.
but see, okay, my pitch would be, you make it like each episode's, you make it like an anthology, but you make it like I was saying earlier, like where they're tying together on Halloween, and you mine some information, you mine some from the season of the witch, but then let's say you do a 6-episode limited series for Halloween. Michael only appears maybe in 2 episodes. 1 episode as a tease and 1 episode straight a Michael Myers story. And because if you go back and you look at Scream, when they tried to do Scream as a TV series, like in the 3rd season, they actually try to make it like the real Ghostface and do it like a Scream movie. You trying to elongate that story sometimes don't work. And if you want to hold tension about a serial killer, like you can't do Michael Myers over, like you need that movie style pacing, okay, to make it really go. So if you're going to do a Halloween TV series, you either need to come at it with the idea of like intersecting stories that happen on Halloween and Michael appears, but it's not his story. Or you need to look at like you're going to reboot fresh and you're going to look at kind of like what Zombie did. You're going to tell this kid's story, and maybe at like certain points in different Halloweens where it's taking place at different times. It kind of depends on if you want to focus on just Michael, or if you want to branch it out to where it does touch on like Bryan's idea about the guy from the other town who went crazy on a Halloween. So I'm just saying, I think TV is where everything's going right now. That's what all the big people wants. But as you can watch with some of the Star Wars stuff, the TV pacing, it's not thrilling. Like, and that's the thing is sometimes TV doesn't work with pacing the way they're doing these storytelling. So with Halloween, like you want that pacing, you need that energy, you need to connect, and you can't have every episode end with Michael doing something and start again on the next one. So you need to kind of just do something where maybe like one of your episodes is just like a 45, 50-minute Michael Myers Halloween story. So
I think that if you're going to do, and this is an anthology thing, I just kind of like what Tyler said about what I was thinking. Like, let's go back to '68. Let's go back to what happened with this Charlie Bullows guy. Let's go and let's explore things that have happened on Halloween. We can start with you can go and explore that there's a curse upon Halloween, that different things are going to happen on Halloween. You can go that route. But like you have to add Michael into this, but I don't know how you can do a whole show surrounded by Michael unless you do the Rob Zombie route and you start at the beginning and kind of go from there. But I think it would kind of lose some interest. I think it would lose some mystique about it. So I think if you do an anthology thing and you tell different stories of stuff that's happened on Halloween, that it could work. But what I'm a little worried about, I don't know, maybe worry is the wrong word, but no, worry is the right word. But Miramax and like under Paramount, if you will, they own Scream. And then I think they still own Friday the 13th somewhat.
I think Universal owns Friday the 13th now. That's why the Crystal Lake thing's going to Peacock.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I know they own Scream. I know they own Scream for sure. So they said something about a universe.
Yeah.
So are we gonna get like? I don't want them to mix Scream with Halloween. I don't want them to mix other franchise with it. I don't know how you can really continue the way they did. Coring Halloween Ends would have been a way to continue it and have the evil transfer to this new kid. That could have worked, but not at the time that they decided to do this in the middle of a finale movie.
Okay, I say don't do what Scream did when they did Scream the TV series the first season, where they redid the mask and they tried to make it like a mystery of a serial killer. Don't do that. The closest I want Scream and Halloween intersecting is if at a scene of someone trick-or-treating, there's someone dressed as Ghostface in the background.
That's fair.
Because that was a costume first. I'll allow it. Okay.
Sure.
My thought would be to reinvent Michael from the beginning. You keep the idea that this kid's 8 years old and kills his sister. Get rid of Laurie Strode. Like, let's kind of reinvent from the beginning, the origin. You keep Michael Myers, he kills his sister Judith, update the timeline, and you kind of build from there. Make him back to being the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Maybe like he's an urban legend thing of a killer that comes. Something like that with storytelling, where and then you have people who dress up like him at Halloween, or something. I don't know. I just think that we've already had a complete, remake, reboot. We've had a a requel series. We've mined enough from Jamie Lee Curtis and the Laurie story. I think if you're going to do this, let's go back to like the first concept idea and kind of redo it, recreate it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is our hope for the future. That is our look at 45 years of the Halloween franchise. I want to thank James and Tyler of the Krypton Report for joining me here on Greatly Amusing. I think we had a lot to say about ends and how things have gone. Halloween franchise, it's a weird one. They make so many weird choices in it, and that's why I'm somewhat excited, but somewhat kind of scared about the future of Halloween.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and for me, and it's actually funny you say the weird ways they've gone with Michael Myers and the Halloween franchise, like, and people say the weird things that they had done with Jason. It's like they just tried to do something different with a movie, but the way that they took the story in this, it's like so hard to continue any route.
Yeah, like and I think that might be why I like Halloween a little bit more, because it is a little bit more story driven. It might be the wrong story to drive or direction, but it does have a little bit more story and things. But I'm interested to see the future. I'm interested to see the future of Jason, the future of Michael, and eventually I'll probably watch this Chucky show eventually and see how that's gone. I've heard it's actually not bad. But
yeah, I really enjoyed the first two seasons. I think they just started with season 3, dropping the episodes on Peacock as they drop, because that did not happen to the second season. Peacock wasn't around when the first season started, so when it came out, it was there shortly after the Peacock kind of got rolling, but they didn't do that with season 2. But season 3, I just saw it today that they actually have the first 2 episodes on Peacock from season 3, and I believe that's all that's aired.
Well, maybe I can get binging then,
so
and get on it. But thank you guys for being a part of it. I hope you had fun. I had fun, and I hope our listeners had fun. And tune in more to the Krypton Report on their DC Comics stuff and Superman ways.
Yep.
And tune in to more Greatly Amusing for your horror stuff. And I look forward to seeing what James puts together for his horror podcast and how that goes. I'm excited for you, buddy.
I'll keep you posted.
I hope this episode thrilled you. I hope it horrified you. And if it didn't, I hope it left you greatly amused. Good night, everybody.